At first, DeLuca thinks it's a Japanese plane and flinches. But then the sound grows sharper, rising over the tree canopy. It's not a bomber. It's closer, slower, more American. The rustle of branches behind the Marines draws a few rifles up. But instead of an enemy patrol, 2 GIs push into view, grinning like kids sneaking into a ballpark. They're from the 11th Seabees, tanned, cocky, shirts open, and each hauling crates, metal coolers actually, with faded red logos painted on the sides. Coca-Cola. DeLuca stares, not comprehending. The 2 men set the coolers down in the middle of the muddy jungle floor, pop them open with a satisfying hiss, and reveal a sight more alien than a Japanese Zero. Glass bottles. Dozens of them. Covered in sweat beads of condensation. Cold. Ice cold. The Marines stare. A few blink. One swears under his breath, then laughs. DeLuca steps forward and reaches into the cooler. The bottle stings his fingers. He can't believe it. He pops the cap on his belt and takes a sip. He closes his eyes. It's not just the cold. It's the memory. Saturday nights. Movie houses. Corner stores. The Bronx. The entire pre-war world, suddenly concentrated into one swig of sugar and bubbles and temperature. The Marines erupt in grins, shouts, disbelief. Across the jungle no man's land, through the trees, a few Japanese soldiers watch from a camouflaged forward position. They squint. They can't quite see the crates, but they can hear the laughter, the clink of bottles, the unmistakable sound of caps hitting jungle floor. To the Japanese infantry, this is more than strange. It's a violation of expectation. These American troops, filthy, ragged, supposedly worn down, are celebrating. Drinking soda. In the middle of a war zone. They don't know about the soda yet. But the sound, the carefree tone, the laughter, it cuts against everything they've been told about American desperation. What they don't realize is this: the soda didn't arrive by accident. It came from a floating bottling plant. 2 weeks earlier, the U.S. Navy had offloaded refrigeration equipment and mobile Coca-Cola bottling gear from a converted cargo vessel moored behind the line. The equipment had been developed in secret, then deployed by a civilian military logistics task force charged with delivering morale, not just munitions. The Marines didn't ask for Coke. But someone, somewhere up the chain, knew what it meant. Cold soda wasn't just refreshment. It was a message. We can bring this. Anywhere. Even here. Even to hell. August 22, 1942. Guadalcanal jungle fringe, 200 meters from the Lunga perimeter. Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka crouches beneath a stand of banana trees, field glasses pressed to his face. He's young for a platoon commander, just 27, but already seasoned from Manchuria to New Guinea. His men are exhausted. Ammunition is tight. Morale tighter. Through his lenses, he can make out the American positions across the clearing. A hastily dug trench line, sandbags, empty crates. He spots movement, casual, unguarded. A Marine with his shirt half off, bottle in hand. Another raising a glass container, steam wafting off his breath in the tropical heat. Steam? Not steam, condensation. Tanaka lowers the binoculars slowly. He's seen Americans drink water, coffee, even whiskey. But this looks different. The bottles are uniform, glass, marked with white script. The men sip them with lazy familiarity, as if it were a picnic. One Marine tosses a finished bottle over his shoulder. It lands intact near a rock. Tanaka studies the discarded object through his scope again. Then it hits him. It's cold. Impossible. Back at his command post, he speaks in clipped, terse phrases to his company sergeant. They have ice, Tanaka says. The sergeant frowns. That can't be. Not here. They're drinking something cold. All of them. No one says it out loud, but the implication hangs like jungle mist. If the Americans can keep something ice cold in this heat, what else are they capable of? Meanwhile, back at the American line, PFC DeLuca is walking through a trail of mud carrying a case of empties back toward the rear depot. He hears the distant crack of a Japanese Type 38 rifle, but it's a half-hearted shot, fired too wide. No one even flinches anymore. At a small logistics post tucked behind a copse of palms, The makeshift Coca-Cola bottling rig hums with mechanical rhythm. It runs off a converted generator salvaged from a grounded Navy barge, with crushed ice preserved in insulated saltwater tanks. The soda syrup came in steel drums, guarded more carefully than rifles. Bottles were re-washed in jungle water boiled in army field stoves. DeLuca watches two Seabees wipe sweat from their brows as they load more crates into the belly of a canvas-topped Jeep. One of them, a Kansas farm boy named Riggs, grins. "Tell your boys to drink fast," he says. The ice is holden, but not for long. The Jeep rolls forward, rattling across pitted earth, toward the front line. Another delivery. Back on the Japanese side, the psychological effect deepens. That night word spreads. The Americans have ice. They're drinking soda. They're laughing while we bleed. Some Japanese soldiers, huddled in foxholes with rice rations and swamp water, begin to whisper doubts. A corporal mutters, "How can they have luxury while fighting?" His comrade replies, "Maybe, because they don't fear us." This isn't just morale. It's power, subtle, quiet, and strategic. In Tokyo, reports from the Solomon Front begin filtering upward. Strange anecdotes buried in formal battle logs. Enemy exhibits no signs of fatigue. Enemy morale extremely high despite jungle hardship. Unconfirmed reports of enemy receiving chilled beverages at front. Most commanders dismiss it as Allied misinformation. But the men on the ground know better. For American troops, the cold soda becomes a ritual, an absurd, beautiful reprieve from death. Marines start betting cigarettes on who can down the most without burping. One officer jokes it should be added to the standard ration. Another wonders aloud whether the brass is testing some morale experiment. But the truth is simpler. Someone at Quartermaster Command understood something elemental. That morale doesn't just come from flags and speeches. It comes from contrast. From sipping something cold in the middle of war. From feeling, if only for a moment, completely alive. And for the Japanese watching it unfold, unable to understand how or why, it creates a crack, however small, in the belief that their enemy is desperate, disorganized, weak. Because no one weak delivers ice-cold soda to a jungle war. The morning comes in layers, first the dull gray light, then the buzz of insects, then the heat rising like a hand pressed against the throat. Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka moves carefully along a narrow jungle track, stepping over roots and broken fronds, his men following in single file. They're not advancing to attack. Not today. They're here to observe. Tanaka's unit has been pulled back. After 2 nights of failed pressure against the American perimeter, the company commander wants clarity. Something is wrong with the Americans. They look as exhausted as any troops living in a swamp, yet they act as if the island belongs to them. They dig in calmly. They counterattack with coordination. And now, they drink something cold. Tanaka stops at a shallow depression in the ground, an old shell hole half filled with brown water. Around it are signs of recent movement, boot prints, broken branches, cigarette stubs crushed into the mud. He kneels and scans the area. Then he sees it. A glass bottle, lying on its side near a rock. Partially buried, the lower half muddy. The upper half still clean enough to catch the light. White script curves along the glass. He reaches out, hesitates, then lifts it carefully as if it might be a trap. The bottle is empty. But the surface is still faintly cool. Tanaka's fingers tighten. A private behind him leans forward, eyes narrow. "What is it, Lieutenant?" Tanaka doesn't answer right away. He turns the bottle slightly, reading the English letters he can't fully pronounce. He recognizes enough to understand it isn't medicine. It isn't fuel. It's a drink. A pleasure item. A civilian thing. A thing that should not exist here. He passes the bottle back to his platoon sergeant, and the men handle it with the same uneasy respect they would give an enemy map case. The sergeant squints at it like it contains a coded insult. "Americans," the sergeant mutters. "They bring their city life with them." Tanaka's mind is already moving past the bottle itself. He's thinking about what it represents. Glass is fragile. It breaks. It's heavy. It takes space. It must be manufactured, shipped, protected, delivered. Not just once. Repeatedly. If this bottle reached the front line, then so can bullets. So can spare parts. So can medical plasma, new boots, replacement radios, and artillery shells stacked deep behind the trees. The bottle is proof of reach. Proof that the Americans can extend comfort even into a place designed to strip comfort away. Tanaka rises and signals his men to pull back. They melt into the jungle again, leaving behind only footprints and one less illusion. Later that afternoon, on the American side, PFC DeLuca is posted near a supply dump, an ugly sprawl of crates, tarps, ammo tins, and stacked rations hidden under camouflage netting. The air smells like damp canvas, fuel, and rotting vegetation. Everything here is improvised, but organized. Each pile has a purpose. Each box is marked. Each route is moving something forward. A Marine corporal named Red Haskins walks up with his rifle slung and a grin on his face. "You here?" Haskins says. DeLuca wipes his hands on his trousers. "Hear what?" Haskins jerks his chin toward the rear line. More crates came in. More soda. They're saying it's comin' regular now. DeLuca exhales a breath that sounds almost like laughter. Regular. As if this were a normal supply schedule. As if chilled soda is another form of ammunition. He watches two Seabees wrestle a cooler off a trailer. The cooler is dented and scratched, but it holds its cold like a vault. They open it just long enough to pull bottles out, glass clinking softly like something delicate and valuable. For a second, DeLuca catches a glimpse of the label. Coca-Cola. He's surprised by the wave of emotion it triggers. Not pride. Not joy. Something steadier and deeper. Relief. Because it means someone back home still remembers what it means to be human. As evening approaches, the jungle grows louder. Bird calls turn sharp and frantic. Somewhere out beyond the line, the Japanese begin probing again. Small movements, quiet shots, testing for weakness. A flare pops in the distance, turning the tree lean into white skeletal silhouettes. DeLuca crouches behind sandbags, fingers resting on his carbine. His eyes track the darkness. His heartbeat feels slow and heavy, like it belongs to someone else. Then the supply runner arrives. A small figure darts through the trenches, helmet low, shoulders hunched. He carries a single crate under one arm, like it matters more than his own safety. He slides into the dugout beside DeLuca and sets it down. The runner grins. "Got something for ya?" DeLuca stares. "You're kidding." The runner pries the lid open. Inside, packed in melting ice, are a handful of bottles. Condensation beads on the glass, catching the light from a shaded lantern. The bottles look unreal in the mud and sandbags, like props from a world that shouldn't exist here. DeLuca takes one, pops the cap with his belt. He drinks. And as the cold hits his throat, he feels the war pull back, just a fraction. Not gone. Never gone. But distant, like thunder behind a mountain. Around him, other Marines reach for their bottles. Some laugh quietly. Some drink without smiling, eyes still scanning the dark. One man murmurs, "If they can get this to us, they can get anything." No one argues. Because in the Pacific, that kind of certainty is rare. And dangerous. And comforting. On the far side of the jungle, Tanaka's platoon listens to the Americans. They can't see the bottles. But they can hear the faint clink again. Glass against glass, casual and light. One Japanese soldier, no older than 19, whispers, "How can they keep doing this?" Tanaka doesn't answer. He watches the perimeter through the darkness, expression hard, mind colder than the night air ever gets on this island. He thinks of Japanese supply lines, thin, fragile, stretched across thousands of miles. Barges sunk by aircraft. Rice sacks soaked in seawater. Ammunition rationed by the handful. Men eating cold grains in mud while mosquitoes bite through their sleeves. Then he thinks of the bottle in his sergeant's pack. Not a weapon. Not a document. A drink. A message sealed in glass. Tanaka understands something now that cannot be unseen. America is not just fighting with rifles and ships. America is fighting with logistics so deep and so confident that it can afford to deliver comfort into battle. The soda is not the point. The cold is. Because if they can bring ice here, then they can bring war here forever. August 24, 1942. Rear Echelon Depot, just off Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The airstrip vibrates under the constant churn of engines. C-47 transports buzz overhead, circling in with crates and fuel drums. Bulldozers grind against coral runways. Navy corpsmen haul crates of plasma into temporary tents, dodging truckloads of wire, ammo, and, yes, more soda. Chief Warrant Officer Harold Ransom of the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps steps out of his tent and lights a cigarette with shaking fingers. He hasn't slept in 20 hours. His khakis are salt-stained and streaked with oil. But his eyes gleam when the next manifest is read aloud. 12 refrigeration units. 8 more coolers. 1 entire pallet of Coca-Cola syrup concentrate, complete with labeling in French, English, and Spanish. He mutters, "We're fightin' this war in glass and ice." Beside him, a civilian contractor from Coca-Cola's bottling team adjusts a rusted pressure valve on the portable carbonation rig they've set up beneath a canvas lean-to. The equipment looks like a mashup of boiler parts and farm machinery. But it works. Every hour, they're producing 50 to 60 bottles. Each one cleaned by hand, filled, capped, and packed into metal chests lined with crushed ice and salt. The ice comes off Navy ships when they can spare it. When they can't, the bottlers improvise with insulated rice sack coolers buried underground and shaded with palm leaves. The entire system exists solely to ensure that, somewhere on the front, an American rifleman can take a break, crack open a bottle, and remember, if only for a second, what he's fighting for. To the Japanese, it's bewildering. Back at Tanaka's Jungle Command post, the mood is shifting. The officer cadre has been digesting the implications for days. The Americans don't just survive. They bring luxury to the front lines. Not with gold or music or parades, but with temperature. With cold. In the Japanese worldview, suffering is noble. Self-denial is virtuous. To eat cold rice, to endure disease, to fight in rags. This is the proof of a soldier's spirit. Comfort is weakness. Ice is a luxury of fools. But this belief begins to crack, and not under artillery. It cracks under silence. Under watching the enemy grow stronger in heat, while they wither. Under hearing laughter from trenches filled with men drinking soda, while their own men sip swamp water through bamboo straws. Tanaka says nothing to his superiors. But in his private log, tucked behind layers of battle maps and rice paper, he writes, "The Americans bring the world with them. Each bottle is not only a supply item. It is a flag." September 2, 1942. Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. Corporal Red Haskins sits on an overturned ammo crate beside a cratered stretch of airfield, his rifle between his knees. Behind him, a CB walks past with a soda crate balanced on one shoulder. Haskins watches him go, then looks down at his own bottle. Half empty. Still cold. He grins. "Hey DeLuca," he calls. "Bet your old man never thought you'd fight a war drinking Coca-Cola under palm trees." DeLuca, stretched out under a tarp with his boots off, raises his bottle in salute. "He never thought I'd live through the week." They both laugh, not because the joke is good, but because they can. Because they're not dead. Because there's soda. Because somehow, logistics won another day. Nearby, a marine photographer snaps a picture of 3 GIs sitting on sandbags, bottles in hand, smiling like kids at a county fair. He doesn't stage the shot. He doesn't need to. The absurdity is real. And when that photo later circulates in Stars and Stripes, when it reaches offices in Washington and Atlanta, it becomes something else. A weapon of reassurance. Proof that American supply chains reach further than doubt. That American boys, even in hell, drink cold soda. In Tokyo, intelligence officers study intercepted reports. They see the references. Soft drinks delivered to jungle front. Portable bottling equipment deployed to forward units. One analyst shakes his head. Another slams the paper down. But a third, older, silent, sets the report aside with care. He's been to Manila. He's seen what happens when industry meets war. He knows what cold means. And he knows what it means to lose to it. September 5, 1942. Southern ridge overlooking the Matanacaw River, Guadalcanal. Lieutenant Tanaka stands quietly under a jungle canopy, boots half sunk in the spongy earth, his uniform clinging to his back. He's lost a third of his platoon. Not to gunfire, but to malaria, dysentery, exhaustion. The jungle takes more than bullets ever could. And yet, across the valley, the Americans build. He sees it through breaks in the trees, timber scaffolding, sandbagged huts, fresh tent lines. Trucks groan along dirt roads, supply mules inch through carved jungle paths, and beneath it all hums a rhythm he cannot silence: continuity. There is no collapse. There is no desperation. Every attempt to break the American line has failed. And somehow, every week, their line looks stronger. Last night, one of Tanaka's runners returned from a recon crawl with another bottle. Same script, same curved glass. Empty, but unmistakably the same as before. He hadn't taken it for intelligence. He'd taken it for proof. Tanaka sits with it now, alone in a dugout roofed with palm fronds and bamboo. He turns the bottle over in his hands. It's scratched, fogged from the damp air, and a small chip runs along its base. But the message remains. Not propaganda. Not arrogance. Precision. Logistics. Presence. Back at the American perimeter, a group of Marines gathers around a shallow pit, stripping off boots and shirts. The sun is brutal, but the air smells clean, burned brush and jungle pine. DeLuca passes a bottle down the line. It's warm now, the ice long gone, but the taste is the same. One Marine jokes, "Next they'll be shipping us ice cream." Someone laughs, someone else says, "I wouldn't put it past him." Nearby, a corpsman tapes up a sprained ankle. A chaplain walks past carrying a bucket of coffee. A Navy radioman from a forward air controller team opens his field pack and pulls out, not a radio, but a crumpled copy of Life magazine, pages damp but legible. The headline reads, "Coca-Cola builds morale on all fronts." Under it, a black and white photo of a grinning soldier holding a soda bottle in one hand and a grenade in the other. No caption could be more American. By mid-September, the Japanese begin pulling back from the Guadalcanal interior. Command calls it a tactical repositioning. But Tanaka knows better. He knows withdrawal when he sees it. And this one is not driven by battlefield losses. It's driven by a kind of psychological saturation. The recognition, not shouted, not printed, but understood, that the enemy is not running out. That the enemy has more. More supplies. More mobility. More time. And, somehow, the ability to cool liquid in a jungle. In the officer's tent, Tanaka folds his private journal and slides it into an oilskin pouch. In it are battle notes, sketches, fragments of broken bottles, and a single sentence he added just hours ago. They are not stronger because they are ruthless. They are stronger because they are calm enough to drink cold soda in war. October 1942. San Francisco. Inside a boardroom at Coca-Cola headquarters, executives review field reports, photographs, and packaging logs. They tally shipments, plan expansions, order more bottling units to be outfitted for naval transport. One memo reads, "Morale uplift measurable in units receiving regular soda shipments. Recommend inclusion in long-range strategic logistics." It's not a marketing victory. It's a military one. Back on Guadalcanal, as the rains return and the battles resume, the glass bottles don't disappear. They're buried in mud, crushed under boots, forgotten beneath ammo crates. But they remain. Artifacts of a war where the front line wasn't only the trench. It was the supply line, the refrigeration coil, the ice chest, the bottle cap. Because in a place where everything should be hot, uncertain, and dying, someone brought ice. And someone else watched it melt.